If you or someone you know has diabetes, you may have built up an extra supply of test strips and lancets. That's where we come in. We'll buy the supplies that you don't need and resell them to those in need to prevent waste. Help us make diabetes management more affordable. Visit us at teststripswithaz.com.
All right, we have Jean-Paul Bosnoyan joining the show. He returns to action this Friday at LFX taking on Spike Carlyle. Jean-Paul, how are you, man?
Doing well, man. How are you?
Doing great. So we're a little more than 72 hours away from this big fight against a very tough guy in Spike Carlyle. I mean, when your name is Spike, you have to be a tough guy, but how are you feeling as we're getting closer and closer to this one?
Personally, I'm feeling great. I just, the hard part is over. The training is done. All the preparation is done. So now I just have to shed some weight and then, just show up to the fight.
I know you have a big fight coming up, but I saw that you competed in the Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds back in August. How did you enjoy that experience?
Yeah, that was a great experience. I competed in EBI when I was 18, and I loved that experience as well. So they invited me back for the Combat Jiu-Jitsu now that I'm training in MMA. So I kind of took it as a like a pre-camp for my up and coming camp. So I kind of used it to get ready for this camp that I'm in now, and it was just a great way to keep the mind sharp and to prepare.
Did you take a lot away from that experience? Like, I know combat jiu-jitsu, at least here in the United States, it's a newer combat sport, but it's growing pretty rapidly as well. Were you able to take a lot away from competing in the Worlds over the summer?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that really sparked my interest was when I was training for the combat jiu-jitsu, we at least before when it came to MMA, it was like, okay, when we're standing, I got the hands and I can kick as well. And when it goes to the ground, I use my jiu-jitsu and purely my jiu-jitsu. There was no real strategy to the ground and pound. So with combat jiu-jitsu, there was such an emphasis on, from what positions I can strike from on the ground and how to maintain control and strike at the same time. And training at the Gracie Academy with Henry Gracie, he has a lot of knowledge on punch defense and how strikes work on the ground. So I definitely took a lot away from that experience that I didn't necessarily expected going into it.
How old are you?
I'm 20.
20 years old. My God, if I could be 20 years old again. This has been just a crazy run you've been on. You've been off to the races since you began your amateur career. You've been able to get a lot of fights in over these 2+ years or so. But I have to ask how you found MMA to begin with. What drew you to it and led you to getting in the cage and competing the way that you are right now?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, man, I didn't have a choice when it came to this sport. My dad owns a martial arts academy in Hermosa Beach. So from a very young age, I was on the mats and I was learning jiu-jitsu. And, I started competing when I was about 5 years old. And it kind of just took off from there. I just had an itch for the sport, and I loved competing. I loved putting it out on the line and testing myself. And the only thing that was really keeping me back from competing in MMA was my age. So once I turned 18, it was pedal to the metal. All this training that I've done growing up, it was time to put it to the test. And so far, I've been blessed to be undefeated, and I look to continue that Friday night.
You see fighters once in a while. I think Wonderboy Thompson comes to mind, who trains with his dad. Has been kind of involved in martial arts from a very early age, like you're describing right now. What was that like for you growing up, just being instilled with those martial arts values and just being part of the martial arts mentality in the world? Ever since you were a very young boy.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, doing that was definitely, it makes me who I am now, because I feel like the sport of mixed martial arts is kind of losing the martial arts part of it, with the hype and the money and the fame and all of that. And there's select few people that still choose to kind of bring bring back or kind of represent martial arts and what that means. And it's, having integrity and having respect for your opponent and, not talking trash. So, growing up in that kind of environment and having that instilled in my brain is definitely something that sets me apart from some of the people in the sport. There's a lot of good people in the sport, but I definitely think there should be more people who represent, what martial arts really means.
Do you feel like we're in the middle of a shift here? Because, for a while it was, the best fight's the best. You see some trash talk here and there. Then like Conor would come in and it was like a whole different ball game. But I feel like, Conor's still the biggest star in the sport right now. But I feel like with him being out of the equation, yeah, you see the Colby Covingtons of the world out there yapping away. But I feel like we're in a little bit of a shift where the performances do the talking more than the actual fighters do the talking. I feel like we're going back to the older ways. Do you feel that way as well?
Yeah, I mean, people are going to do, what they're going to do no matter what. Everybody's got their own little thing. And like I said before, I think it's just more so just sparking the interest in young fighters and people who are coming into the sport, or even people who are already in the sport, just to kind of spark the interest of what it means to be a true martial artist and to kind of hold yourself to that standard. So that's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to eventually one day use the platform to shine light on that and to bring more people into the sport.
I mean, you've been involved in martial arts your entire life. In terms of your MMA progression, you had 7 amateur fights before you made the decision to go pro. Did you and your dad and your team just feel like it was the right time to take that leap at that point? Like, it happened pretty quickly compared to a lot of fighters that have made that transition from ammy to pro.
Yeah, I mean, through the time I had 7 fights was a very short period of time. I think it was less than a year. And in that time, there was a lot of road bumps and a lot of speed bumps. But, so basically, like now, I've kind of carved my own path. I'm no longer training with my father. I'm training now at Team Oyama. And I think throughout that whole experience, there was just so many things that have now made me the fighter and the man that I am. But yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like I've grown over that short period of time, and making the move to where I'm at now at Team Oyama and working with Colin Oyama and working at the Gracie University has definitely set me apart from those amateur days.
This sport is all about evolution. You improve, you evolve from fight to fight, but you've just been a finishing machine. Like, all of your ammy fights, all of your pro fights, you finished all of them. Do you feel like at this point, being a 20-year-old, that things are clicking on all cylinders right now? Or even more scary to think about, has that not happened yet?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see myself as a finisher. I'm never in any kind of fight, any kind of competition to win by points or to strategically win if it's not to finish. And I've been that way since I was a little kid. When I was competing as a little kid, I pretty much finished every single fight I had. And if it went to points, it was because I couldn't finish, not because I didn't want to. So yeah, when it comes to like MMA and fighting, I'm always looking for the finish, but I also think that I still haven't reached my full potential. And what's shown me that is the rate of improvement between fight to fight. And the fact that I know a lot of people are always like, yeah, I'm always getting better. I'm always this, I'm always that. But like I show that in my training. I show that in my sparring. And I'm such an open-minded person when it comes to basically everything that I want to learn as much as possible. And there's not an ounce in me that's like, oh, like I know, or, just kind of cocky or whatever. Like, I'm confident, but I'm always open to learn. So that's kind of like my secret weapon.
So you're a sponge.
Yeah, totally a sponge.
You got to be that way. And now you get Spike Carlyle, who I believe is trained by Mark Munoz out of San Diego. 7-1 as a pro. He's on a really impressive streak right now. He had that incredible spinning back fist KO in his last fight with LFA. I know every fight is tough, but looking at it on paper and doing your homework, you and your team, Is it fair for me to say that this is the toughest fight of your young career to date?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's just a testament to show that, I believe in myself. And even though he is the toughest guy, like I'm just obsessed with testing my skills. And, I work so incredibly hard in the gym and out of the gym, and I make sure I'm doing all the right things. So going up against a guy who's 7-1 and me being 2-0 is, to some people, is like, oh, no, you should wait, you should take your time or whatever. But I believe that, I'm ready for this, and I wouldn't take it if I wasn't. But I also feel that I have this need inside of me to test myself and to know, am I ready? Am I I just want to know what's going to happen. You know what I mean? I want to go out there. I want to get punched in the face. I want to punch him in the face. I want to scramble with him. I want to feel, what he feels like. I'm so curious to feel that. So I'm very, very excited to finally feel that Friday night, because, I've been itching for it this whole camp.
Are you able to separate yourself from the fight game at all? Because you strike me as someone who thinks about it a lot. You're obviously in the gym a lot. Are you able to separate yourself from the game? Like, if you have downtime, you're able to not think about the fight or what's coming up?
Yeah, well, I'm very fortunate to where I can do this full time, and I don't. Basically, this is all I do. So I wake up every day. Everything is strategically planned out for my training. So yeah, this is my life. This is all I think about, all I care about. It literally, in my mind, defines who I am as a person. So that just shows you kind of how much everything means to me. And this fight means literally the world to me. So I'm going to go out there and I'm going to give it everything I have. So
some might look at that as obsessive. I don't look at it that way. I look at it as a pretty freeing feeling, because especially at 20 years old, I mean, I'm 36. It took me a long time to figure out what I wanted to do and what I was passionate about. And obviously talking to you fighters, that's one of the things I'm very passionate about. I love hearing your stories and how you got to this position, but it's got to be a pretty freeing feeling at 20 years old to know that you're on the right road and you're doing what you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think I have a step up on a lot of the people my age, but at the same time, it can be very stressful, and it can be intense and a lot of things, but that's kind of what fuels me at the same time. The unknown, and yeah, just living my life to the fullest in the sport and not cutting any corners and going out there and giving it my all.
You've been instilled a lot of these qualities from a very young age. We touched on that. We touched on you moving over to Team Oyama, and a lot of great fighters there, past, present, and future, train there. You're one of those guys. How beneficial has that been for you to be a part of that team and learn the lessons you seemingly learn day in, day out, physically and mentally over there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the biggest thing that I've learned over there is you adapt to your environment and you become what you surround yourself with. And it was very clear from the first day that I walked in there that, what I was doing before was not cutting it, even though I might have thought it was, because it was a huge reality check. It was 2 to 3 months of me just getting worked and worked and worked and worked, and going home basically in tears, wondering, if I'm good enough, or if I'm ever going to be able to match up with some of the guys in the gym. And, after that period of time, I started to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And, fortunately now I've been able to stand toe to toe with some of the best guys in the gym. And, I think that's all thanks to basically everyone on the team who's pushed me to adapt, and to our head coach, Colin, who's been able to implement my jiu-jitsu with my new striking abilities and putting it all together for me. So I trust in my team. I trust in Colin. I also trust in everyone that's helped me with my jiu-jitsu at the Gracie Academy and with my strength and conditioning as well. Because what people see on TV and what they see when they watch a fight is two guys going at it. But little do they know that each guy has a whole army of people who put so much time and energy and effort into that one moment. So, I'm grateful for everybody who's helped me along this journey.
I know everyone sort of trains with everybody there and at the Gracie Academy, but is there anyone specific you've been working with at Oyama or at the Gracie University to get you ready for this fight, to give you more specific looks heading into Friday?
Yeah, I would say at Team Oyama, basically all the guys my size who have been, extremely helpful. I mean, I could go off a list of names, but they all know who they are. And at the Gracie Academy, it's basically just been me, Henner, and Brian Ortega. We've just been locking down, every single day and working on technique and like we said earlier, just soaking everything up because Hito and Henner's knowledge of Jiu-Jitsu is unreal and nothing like I've ever seen before. So we're definitely like chipping away and sharpening the sword every single time we're practicing.
You seem very relaxed right now, which is a very good thing heading into a fight. But, deep down, there's probably other emotions going on. You're 72 hours or so away from the toughest fight of your career. Are there nerves kicking in, which is very natural? Are you a little antsy as this fight gets a little closer? Like, how would you describe what you're feeling like right now as we're getting so close to this one?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only way I can describe it is to compare it to my other experiences with how I felt leading up to fights in the past. And, being so young, it's like I don't necessarily know how to deal with all these feelings and all these emotions, but I can definitely tell you that with every fight that it's getting better and better and better, and I'm believing in myself more and more. And that's kind of what basically what's been giving me the confidence is just trusting in my training and trusting in my preparation and everyone who's got me to where I am now. So I am very relaxed going into this, but at the same time, for not 1 second have I underestimated my opponent or overestimated him. I'm just ready. So
are you a visualization guy?
Yeah, 100%.
When you close your eyes and you visualize this fight playing out, I'm sure you've seen it from so many different angles, so many different placements in the cage. How do you see it all playing out? What's sort of the normal intangible on how the fight comes to an end?
I have no idea. I wish I could tell you, but I have no idea. I just try to go through the motions and go through, my part and showing up and walking into that cage. And I have no idea. I keep an open mind with everything. Anything can happen. So that's definitely in my head, but same goes for him.
We're, like you said, we're not overlooking Spike at all here, but with the win, this is a hell of a year for you with the Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds experience. You improved to 3-0 as a pro, 3 pro wins in a 12-month stretch. I mean, how do we top this in 2020? Like, what kinds of goals have you set for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely am very optimistic of 2020, but to be honest, it's hard to see past this fight because all my energy and all my time, all my focus is in this fight. But if all goes well, I definitely am looking to be more active in 2020. I definitely was not as active as I would have liked to been in MMA this year. So 2020 is going to be more of like a year where I lock down and I really like make a push for making it to the UFC. So that's my goal. My goal is to be in there with the best of the best and to constantly be improving until I get there.
If you didn't tell me you were 20 years old, I would never have believed you. Like honestly, I would have never guessed 20 years old. Like I'm not just saying this because you're in front of me. I've interviewed a lot of fighters over the years, and you are very wise beyond your years. You don't talk to a lot of 20-year-olds who present themselves the way that you do, and it's very impressive stuff. Does that surprise people when you tell people that you're 20 years old? Coming off the way that you come off, because that doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, I mean, I do get that. I do get that a lot, but I'd surround myself with just some great people, and I feel that, you know, they rub off on me. So I'm just a product of my environment and the great people that believe in me.
Friday night, LXF4. This is going to be a great fight at 155 pounds, and certainly one to keep an eye on. John Paul, thank you for the time. Before we let you go, let the folks know where they can find it and follow you on the web, social media, any shout outs, anything else you want to get off your chest. The floor is yours.
Yeah, so you guys can follow me on Instagram. My username is at Jean Paul MMA, and that's basically where I post everything. And then I just want to thank basically all my fans and my friends and everyone who's helped me for this fight and who continue to support me. Without you guys, I'm nothing. So let's go do this Friday night.
Thanks, John Paul. All the best to you on Friday night. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, brother.